Let's share this interview we had during the week with the MD of NIWA. So let's take this. Okay, thank you for joining us for this session. MD, CEO NIWA, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
My pleasure.
Now, the rainy season is upon us, and in Nigeria, of course, farmers, happy, the weather is good and all of that. But the ugly incidents of flood that keeps, coming with the rainy season is something that, a lot of people want to see an end to. But some analysts are of the opinion that if the waterways are well managed, it will go a long way in, checking the excesses of the flood incidents we witness in Nigeria yearly.
Yes, I tend to agree that there is need for management of our inland water resources to be able to check flood. But at the same time also, it is not in isolation of our attitudinal behavior, because you find out that most of the channels are blocked as a consequence of mismanagement of issues in most of the communities and environment, and it impacts negatively on the issue. But for us in NIWA, we're very conscious the rainy season wouldn't come to us as a surprise. We know that, and that's why we have a department that monitors these climatic changes. They monitor them, give advisory notices to communities, local governments that are all on the water channels, on the water routes. You see, because there are some areas that are more prone to flooding than the others. So we do that on a regular basis. We do, it may interest you to know that we do even gauge the volume. We gauge water volume. Even as the rains are coming, we gauge water volumes, and then based on that, we keep giving advisory reports to various communities to keep them on the know, keep them on the alert, especially those communities that are on waterways, on water routes, on flood-prone areas. But at the same time also, I will not hesitate to say that we also, our attitudinal behavior, the way we live our lives also plays a key role in this issue of flooding.
What has been your experience with those people who build on waterways? Because of course you say you advise them on how, I'm sure that advice included them moving away from their settlement. How has that experience been like? Because sometimes it's often difficult to get people to move away from where they are because of flood, because oftentimes they will tell you, where do you want them to go? This is
that keeps coming. That keeps coming. But the point is that we're talking about human lives here. We're talking about serious losses. So we encourage them putting the facts on the table, getting them to understand the implication. You may notice even some governments now have gone the extra mile to pull down even very high rises, pull down very big structures that are all built on waterways. One, ab initio, you find out that most of these buildings don't have approved plans, because I'm sure that no agency of government will approve the construction of a building on a waterway, knowing the implication. So you find out that most of these buildings that are being pulled down are buildings that were built, some may say is out of ignorance, some may be a consequence of their belief that they are above board, they can do anything they want and get away with it, forgetting or losing sight of the fact, the implication on the ecosystem, the challenge, the problem it creates. So but until the problem comes facing us, now we're becoming more conscious of flooding because of the experiences of the past. Ordinarily, none of us would bother, but now people are becoming more conscious of it, and by the time we keep educating them, those who may have experienced the previous ones are now prone to listening to us the moment we draw their attention to it. Some are responding, but that is not to say that we don't have challenges where some will say, now where do you want us to go? Who told you that we have been living here in hundreds of years? But they also forget that yes, you may be living here for years past. You may be living here without any problem, but the problem can start one day. And scientifically, most of this data, the information are generated scientifically and then we present them with empirical evidence and encourage them to relocate.
If my records are right, I understand that about 28 states, 27, 28 states of out of the 36 states of the Federation can actually be linked via water. Are we not really thinking about that, knowing fully that transportation is something that has become a challenge, talking about our road transportation?
Yes, the point you made with regards to the information you have, whether 2017 is quite correct. All right, we can access all the states by water, but as it is today, we may not be able, because we have not been able to dredge or to open up the channels covering this entire over 10,000 kilometers of waterway. As we speak today, we are in the neighborhood of 3,000, 3,008, which is about 30% all year round navigable. That is, when I mean all year round navigable, we have reasonable draft that flat bottom barges in the worst instances can operate.
Not necessarily during the rainy season.
Not necessarily during the rainy season, all year round. During the dry season, we still have a level of draft for these barges to operate on. So that is where we are. The truth about it is that if we have all the resources available, all the channels can be opened. And when that is done, we'll be able to reach and move into 28 states by water.
And are we even thinking about it?
Yes, I must commend this government. I must be honest with you, not because I'm part of it. There's a sincere commitment on the part of government that we develop the water transport system as one of the intermodal means of transportation. Government is very conscious of that fact, and every action that has taken place and is still taking place is designed at realizing this objective.
Okay, talk to me about the recent, success of your agency because of the concessioned Onitsha River ports. Because I understand this was concession for about 4 billion naira, and then the federal government is likely going to, earn about 23 billion naira for the 30 years period of the concession.
Yes, you are very correct. Like we always say, quite recently, that Onitsha River Port concession is our poster boy, because we look at it as something that, in actual fact, it is the first maritime concession that's concluded in the maritime sector. Okay, so for us, it's a milestone, major milestone, and again, it has encouraged us because we've also learned quite a lot from the process. If you recall, the process has been ongoing for about 4 or 5 years before I came into office in 2019. So we pursued it with all dedication and commitment to ensure that we concluded it. Why the emphasis is that, one, it will open up doors for private partnership, participation. It will also be a training school, a training ground for us to learn about this PPP thing, this concessioning thing, so that we can be able to deliver real time. And now, that has also encouraged other PPP players for them to understand, oh, this is real. Because, the one basic thing that is working against government programs and government institutions like this is because of that fear that government is not really committed to doing it. So we have restored confidence in the business community that this thing is doable, it's also been done. So that's why we refer to Onitsha, the concessioning process, as our poster boy, and is playing a good role for us now in our desire to get other ports concession. I may interest you to note that Uguta River Port, Lokoja Port are still ongoing, has not been completed. But today we have requests from reputable private sector players who want to concession it.
But you have the one that is completed.
Yes, we have received the one in Baro.
How many years now since it was completed, commissioned by the President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, yet no ship has bedded.
Don't forget that Onitsha River Port that we just concession has been on for 34 years.
So are we talking about the next 34 years for Baro Port?
No. What I'm saying is that it's not about how long, it's about the immediate commitment, the dedication. The government is determined to get that port functioning. And the basic challenge with Baro has nothing to do with the port itself. because the port is world class with world class equipment, completely finished. The challenge on Baro had to do with access road. And now government has now demonstrated commitment. You may be aware also that rail contract has been awarded from the port up to Kano via Mina. Okay, if you remember, these ports, they are now in Baro. This one that just come. It's not the first port there. If you go there today, you see relics of an old port by the colonial masters. It's still there. All right. So that goes to show that Baro is a port town. And there was a rail line there. But all these things, like, were all abandoned. But now government has awarded a contract for the reactivation of that rail line. The essence of it is to help in movement of cargo from and to the port. Now, the roads leading to the port, which have been in deplorable condition, we've been trying to manage it and maintain it within our limited resources. Federal government has awarded a contract for one of the major roads, and the state government, we have engaged them. I personally have met with the governor and the commissioner for transportation, and they have demonstrated a commitment. They have confidence in the port. In fact, the state government is also making effort to see whether they will concession it themselves, going through using an SPV that involves prominent sons of the land, because so that they can now concession the port. So they are now doing one of the roads, the federal government is doing one of the roads, and the federal government is doing the rail line. So by the time these ones are finished, I'm sure access to Baro now wouldn't be an issue. Then I agree with you also that we need to do some work in terms of opening up the channel, maintaining the channel all year round, so that vessels, smaller vessels and flat bottom barges can comfortably come to Baro.
And I'm sure it will go a long way in checking the flood incidents around.
Oh, sure. Yes. Yes. Because when you're talking about dredging, you're opening up the water. Yeah. You're expanding the open space, available space for water to flow. So water will not go out, water will remain where it is, because water moves with regards to the channels you open. As you open new channel here, water will move towards the side.
Well, in other climes, when we talk about channelization of the excess, water we have, it's well done, in other countries. In Nigeria, what can we really do differently in order to begin to, utilize, our excess water differently?
There's a lot we can do, which we are already doing. You see, one thing we must understand is when you talk about developed climes, the challenges they face are certainly different from the ones we face. And then we cannot adapt simplicity, what has happened in country A, and bring it to Nigeria when our circumstances, our challenges are different. So as to what can be done, a lot can be done. At least we can channel our water to the extent that we have enough for agricultural purposes on the banks of the rivers, from top to bottom. We can channel that. We can also, like we talked about, accessibility, okay, movement of vessels from point A to point B, because the essence of building these inland ports is strategic locations, like you have in Baro up there, coming down, you have in Lokoja, you move down, you have in Onitsha, you move up from Onitsha, you have in Uguta, and things like that. Just simple examples. The essence is to make sure that there's interconnectivity between communities and zones, so that we can move, if nothing else, farm produce. Can move farm produce from point 1 to point B. I remember when I met with the Bio Furniture in one of my tours, and he told me how his mother was moving palm oil and what have you from Onitsha to Baro every week.
Wow.
Every week, and then bringing kola nut and what have you now with others. So there's a very strong trade route. I had also had the same conversation with the traditional ruler of Osemoto, where you have the Uguta River Port. The particular town where you have is called Osemoto. He was telling me that vessels were coming from Liverpool to Osemoto, and then bringing goods and then taking away raw materials and things like that back to Liverpool. And then asked me a rhetorical question. What has happened? Has the water dried up, or the route has the route closed, and what have you? I told him no, sir, the water has not dried up. The route, though, has not been used because of diversion of interests. We had no interest in our water transportation system, and we let it die. Right? But there's a new consciousness, a new reawakening, And that's exactly what we are doing. And I gave them that assurance that route will again be open. All right? So if Osemoto was a port town, a port city, as at then, government decision now to put Uguta River Port there is a very wise one. It's only for us now to see that the port is completed and then put into effective use.
It might be a wishful thinking from me, but sometimes when I look at the Grand Canal of Venice, I was like, but we can equally have things like this in Nigeria.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. I share the same sentiment with you. We can. It's about commitment and dedication. And that is where we have pushed our eyes on. We're determined to change the narrative. Like I keep saying, I would feel fulfilled by the time I leave office that water transportation is the transport means of choice for cargo and persons. I would have felt very fulfilled.
Okay, as we wrap up this conversation, just talk to me further. I'm sure a lot of people are listening to you right now. What do we need to do? What should we take away from here, knowing fully that yes, we need to manage our waterways better, and then also need to avert the flood incidences we've been witnessing in the country?
One of the major challenges is about our attitude. It's attitudinal. The way we manage our refuse is unfortunate. Once there is anywhere you find water opening, people will go there and dump refuse. If you take stone and put it in a gutter, there's no way water will push it. And water can be restricted. It will create a route for itself. And when our river channels are all silted, the next thing is that water has to move on to the banks. So flooding has to take place. So we must try as much as possible to change our attitude, the way we manage refuse. It's very key. It is very, very key. At the same time also, government will also do what is expected of it to do, like what we are trying to do by sustaining the maintenance dredging principle, so that we can also keep opening up our channels. And once resources are available, we expand the scope by doing more capital dredging that will now enable us to be able to reach the 28 states that God has provided for us in this country. Because like you rightly observed, we can reach 28 states by water.
Things I certainly would love to see as a Nigerian.
It's our prayer.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for speaking to us, MD.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you.